Greetings, students. This is the fourth set of notes in the Weather and Atmosphere unit. It's called Weather Instruments and Severe Weather. You're going to write down everything in orange text, or in this, with a pink background. It's a really dark orange, so it looks kind of brown, but it's not in black. So write down the stuff in orange, pause the video if you need more time, and there's a catch-all slide at the end with everything you need. So weather instruments. We use weather instruments to collect data about the weather. Over the next few slides, you'll get information about individual aspects of weather and the tools used to measure each aspect. First is temperature. For temperature, we use a thermometer. Temperature is a measure of how much heat energy there is in the atmosphere, and the units are degrees, either in Fahrenheit or Celsius. Humidity. Humidity is how much water is in the air. It's measured as a percentage, and it's measured with an instrument called a hygrometer or a psychrometer. So 100% humidity is when the air is saturated with water. There's the most water vapor in the air that there could possibly be. A low percentage for humidity means it's dry. Air pressure. Whether the air around you is sinking or rising, measured by barometer. The units are millibars, pascals, atmospheres. There's really several more ways that air pressure is measured. Usually on US weather maps, it'll be millibars. And a barometer often uses mercury to push, it uses the air pressure to push mercury up a tube, and the scale indicates what the air pressure is. So millimeters of mercury is also a unit for air pressure. Wind speed, how fast the wind is blowing, measured by an instrument called an anemometer, and the units are knots, meters per second, or miles per hour. Precipitation, how much rain or snow has fallen, measured by a tipping bucket, and the units are centimeters or millimeters or inches. Another metric scientists use is called a dew point. Dew point is the temperature at which the humidity would be 100%. So the unit for dew point is degrees, and water condenses at the dew point. A radiosonde is a single instrument that usually is raised up in the atmosphere by a weather balloon. A radiosonde measures various parameters of atmospheric conditions and sends them to the ground via radio signals. Moving on to severe weather. Severe weather comes in many forms: drought, hail, blizzards, hurricanes, tornadoes. Drought happens when an area receives far less precipitation than is expected over a long period of time, weeks or months. Drought can cause water shortages and severe heat. Blizzards are large snowstorms that can cause power outages and immobility. Hail is precipitation in the form of frozen water. It can be as small as a grain of sand or as large as a baseball. Hail is formed by repeated updrafts in cumulonimbus clouds. Hurricanes. Hurricanes are the largest storm on Earth, rated on a scale of 1 to 5. So like a Category 1 hurricane would be a smaller hurricane, a Category 5 hurricane would be a huge hurricane. And they are destructive. In the Pacific, hurricanes are called typhoons, but both hurricanes and typhoons are tropical cyclones. A small hurricane can be called a tropical depression or a tropical storm. In order to be considered a hurricane, the storm winds must be at least 120 kilometers per hour or 75 miles per hour. Hurricanes always begin near the equator where it's warm and there's a lot of water. In the tropics, they rotate counterclockwise in the northern hemisphere, and as they move with the trade winds, Coriolis effect pushes them northwards towards the United States. So this map shows from a certain date uh, a whole bunch of hurricanes on one map, the tracks that they had, and you can see that they all start near the equator and kind of follow the same pathway, um, curving to the right, and that means to the north as the Earth spins. Some interesting hurricane aftermath photos. Hurricanes cause damage to buildings with high winds and flooding. They can also cause power outages and impede travel. And they can put people underwater. A hurricane gets its energy from warm water, so it's strongest if it remains over the ocean and near the equator. As it moves away from the equator, the temperature drops and some energy is lost. As it moves over land, the hurricane loses energy from the loss of water. Hurricanes are somewhat common in Virginia, but they often have lost energy by the time they reach us. Virginia experiences between 0 and 5 hurricanes annually. So on this map you can see as a hurricane comes onto land, it might come onto the coast as a Category 2, but then as it loses its energy from not being over water anymore, as it gets further inland, it'll drop from a Category 2 to a Category 1 and then drop to a tropical storm. Tornadoes. A tornado is a narrow, violent, funnel-shaped column of spiral winds that extends downward from the cloud base towards Earth. Tornadoes are common in the Midwestern U.S., but we do have them in Virginia. Virginia experiences about 20 tornadoes annually. Tornadoes are very destructive. However, if the location where a tornado touches down is unpopulated, the damage is mitigated by isolation. If the tornado touches down in a city, the damage is far greater. This is actually in Virginia. You can see where a tornado tore through a Walmart a number of years ago. Tornadoes are measured on the Fujita scale, 1 through 7, with 7 being the largest possible tornado. Tornadoes always travel from southwest to northeast. You can see here on the map the areas with the greatest tornado risk. Things like mountain ranges can get in the way of tornadoes, and a big flat area is what you need for a big tornado. So areas like Oklahoma and Nebraska and Missouri, that part of the country is pretty flat. And that's it for the notes. Here's what it looks like if you type it all up on one slide, or you can use my fill in the blank option, or you can handwrite them if that suits you. Have a nice day.